and get PSG a point.
So it finishes PSG 1, Newcastle 1. We'll talk about the significance of that result regarding who's going to go through a little later on. But first, let's focus on the game as we welcome in Frank Leboeuf is with us. Frank, forgive me, I'm going to start with the Newcastle man on the panel. You don't see Xhaka very angry very often, do you, boys?
No.
We did in the 95th minute.
I thought it was a ridiculous decision. It goes against the grain of everything, kind of my own experiences as a footballer. It goes against when I was on the IFAB advisory panel, how we were trying to reshape the handball law. Nothing about this added up. And it just felt... It felt like an injustice.
OK, so forget about it hitting the body, OK? It's all about, is the arm making the body bigger? So I spoke to Peter Walton and Mark Clattenburg, of course, both former Premier League referees, and they say it's not the right decision because the arm is in a natural position.
Because in England, let's just give some context to the hitting the body. IFAB changed the rules to take hitting the body out of the equation, then it deflects onto the arm. The old rule was once it deflected off a thigh or any part of the body onto the arm, it wouldn't be a penalty. They changed that. And now they're looking, ironically, in a meeting today, for next year to change it back again, which doesn't do Newcastle any favours. But in England, Premier League, they tried to go with this early on, 2 or 3 years ago, and decided, no, it was a disaster. So they've gone their own way. This would not have been a penalty in England. It shouldn't have still been, even taking into account they've ditched it coming off the body, the fact that his arm is not totally outstretched. But the other one to me is proximity.
Stevie, I'll come to you in a minute. I just want to get a French perspective on this and go out to Frank. What do you think, Frank?
Well, I agree with the guy, especially with Xhaka, that I felt that was the only way, and it was about to come to see Paris Saint-Germain getting something out of the game. And we felt, even in France, and some pundits like Samir Nasri or David Ginola said it, that we all felt that Paris is going to get something out of it. And it's crazy because that penalty doesn't make any sense because, and you rightfully showed it before, you have the Miley situation, which is completely the same situation. Touches the body, then the arm, running, having a normal position, and not asking the ref to go to the VAR. But because you're not at the end of the game, you're not at the 98th or 97th minute, you don't ask the ref to go to VAR. But because on that special minute, you ask then the ref to go to see the VAR, and the ref feel the pressure, and he has to give the penalty. But it's not a penalty. Nobody wants to believe that. That's stupid because the positioning of the body is only natural, and I think it's really unfair to Newcastle for me.
So it's not really fair to Newcastle. You really have to look at how this game went on. PSG were struggling in this game. They struggled to get this game in control. Yes, they had the position, they were trying to score, but they were not making those chances into goals. But that penalty, that last-minute penalty, I have no idea why the VAR was even calling the referee. Because you could tell that in the game, the referee said it wasn't, but because he was called to go check it. Because we all know that was not a penalty, straight and forward, so I don't really have to talk about that. We know it was not a penalty. But the fact that the referee was called to come and check this by the VAR, I think that got into his brain. He started to think, what mistake did I make? And you could see that the decision that he made, it was something that was forced upon him. It was like thrust upon him, because that was not at all a penalty. It shouldn't have stayed, and Newcastle should be smiling here because they would have moved to an important position going to the final week of the Champions League group stages. Because now, as things stands right now, we are hoping that we could see where things goes, but at this point, we are talking about this because now Newcastle feels hard done, and they've been hard done. And I have no idea. And you can see that the UEFA knows that the referees was wrong because exactly after the game, the referees who were in the VAR of that game were all not allowed to work in the next games, and it seems like they've been removed because of those mistakes like that, as well as maybe the referee. But it's really tough. Anyway, let's talk about, because I want to go through the analysis of the game in fullest, because to be honest, really, as much as Newcastle had done, they really did nothing in the game. Anyway, do me a favor, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and guys, welcome back. I'm Sam. I'm sorry for that. We are back again with another reaction video as we look at the 1-1 draw between PSG and Newcastle. Did Newcastle really deserve to be cheated like the way they did? Want to know your thoughts in the comment section. Let's go.
They did have 31 shots, Stevie. Overall, could you say that PSG deserved a draw?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, PSG deserved something from the game. Personally, I think they were the better side. Personally, I think they deserved to win the game.
Right.
But that really doesn't count anymore because of what's happened. And I'm absolutely with Frank and Xhaka that the VAR and the referee have just caved into pressure, because not only was there another shout for a penalty with Miley, there was also a challenge on Hakimi that VAR looked at, they didn't give. And so, for me, the only real explanation is they've kind of caved in. You know, three VAR looks, 3 strong shouts, supposedly, and they've just decided at the end to give one. And actually, I'll take the VAR away, because, particularly myself, I'm always saying the referee should have the last word. And so at the end of the day, it's the referee that's caved, because he has the final say.
Yeah.
Even though they brought him to the monitor, he can still make his own mind up what he thinks, because his decision is the only one that really matters. But he's caved in as well.
But the Gordon challenge on Hakimi there was barely anything in that at all.
But they still had a VAR look at it, and so you get the feeling that they're
and the Miley arm was down by
panicking.
his side. I mean, this is just you know, and I've been following Ian Darke and others on social media. A lot of us are big advocates and have been big advocates for VAR, but VAR this year in particular, I think, is across the board, from the Premier League to Champions League to Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, you name it. It's absolutely gone. It's gone. We're now really micromanaging and refereeing the games. It has gone to the place that they didn't want it to go, and that is re-refereeing almost everything. And whilst I don't want to just chuck the baby out with the bathwater here, I do think they're going to have to scale, and I don't think they will, but I really do feel they should scale it back to allow the referee the on-field decision-making and instinct. So we could be looking at Hawkeye over the line, offsides, off-the-ball incidents, and then let the referee the game.
But that's why we've got VAR. So we're not relying on a referee who has to make a decision in a split second.
Yeah, but we've got to a stage now. We are re-refereeing all these minute decisions, and come on, it's actually putting the referee under pressure to not make a big decision. I know plenty of people have had this discussion where you could make the argument referees have got worse,
right?
Because they know they have that parachute, the safety blanket. The safety blanket is there when, I tell you what, I'm not going to make that call, and if I get the shout, I'll go to the monitor, and then my hands are clear. And it's actually making the game so much more frustrating.
I don't want this to turn into a VAR debate, because obviously we can have that more in the future, and there's a lot to talk about today. What happened on the pitch, not only in this tie, but others as well. Why didn't PSG steamroll this Newcastle side that's just band-aid together?
Because they don't have the ability to do that. And you've got to give Newcastle a lot of credit. You know, you're absolutely right. You know, today they had 2 goalies on the bench. At the weekend when they battled Chelsea, they had 3, and young Miley plays again, 17, 18 years old, whatever he is. Again, Lascelles is in at the back, and just an absolutely terrific effort from Newcastle, defensive effort. And, you know, Pope had to make a few saves. Dembele was wasteful. Mbappé was wasteful in the first half with that flick. But, you know, I think their times G is something crazy, PSG. But who's won and lost the game by stats? So most of the credit for me goes to the Geordies.
Yeah, Newcastle, who just show this team mentality once again, Shaq.
Yeah, and listen, I really sympathise with Eddie Howe and the position that he's found himself in. What was it? 7 players on the bench. Craig already mentioned 2 goalkeepers. All the others were teenagers and didn't have anybody to call on. Didn't make a single substitution all game long just because they're just down to the bare bones. Alexander Isak, just back from injury. I think you saw him, he tired late on. He was unable to hold the ball up. He wasn't able to chase back. So in the end, Newcastle kind of defended with 10 men. And to be fair, I thought Newcastle did as good as you could expect. And I was commenting on the fact that I barely knew what Donnarumma looked like for the first 20 minutes or so. But then Donnarumma, both of Newcastle's early chances came from a poor pass out from him, and then the spill, which I find hard to explain. You get yourselves in front, and now you have something to defend. And Newcastle can do that, and they show that they can do that. And they battened down the hatches. I thought, as well as Nick Pope played, as well as Newcastle played defensively, you're right, PSG absolutely battered Newcastle, but for want of a better finishing. I thought their finishing was poor, and maybe at times a little bit unlucky, and as a result, almost didn't get anything out of this.
Really crazy to talk that to every single game that we are now doing every single time. We are talking about how terrible the VAR is. In anything we do, we always have to find ourselves revisiting and talking about how terrible the VAR is. I only thought it was in the Premier League, but as things stands right now, it's happening everywhere. Champions League, anywhere where there's VAR, it's just terrible. And like what Craig is saying, maybe we could say that the referees now are becoming lazy because they have this parachute which they can lay on, knowing that they are protected no matter what the VAR and the people will check. And if these guys, they don't do anything, they make so many mistakes. And also, one of the most important thing, this micromanagement mentality that is now happening in especially in the Premier League, but everywhere, that even some small decisions which we are not supposed to be wasting time, they take some hours, countless hours, keep looking on the left, on the right. I have no idea. It's like they are looking for a scene where there's no scene, if you even understand what I mean. And that is destroying football as we love it. It's destroying what makes the game so exciting. But like I said, we need to also talk about the game. And the game, we can say that PSG commanded this game. And Shaka, his love is even telling you that he actually forgot how Donnarumma looked like, because there were less chances the Newcastle were getting a chance to go to that position of the game, because it was all PSG that was running the game. But the problem, Ousmane Dembele, wasteful, like he was at Barcelona. So people thought that if he comes to PSG, of course, maybe it looks like there are less injuries now when he's at PSG, but he's still wasteful when it comes to goal scoring. And if you're being wasteful, how can you help anything? How can you do something? He's so wasteful with the chances, and as well as the game continued, Mbappé also was wasteful, and he came back in the game. But when he was coming back, he started to try to play as an assistant merchant, not actually a goal scorer. So it took away so much in the game. So we have a lot of things to complain about this game, because there were a lot of things that were, if they were done just correctly, this could have been a different game. I'm telling you, if these guys had just done their job so well, we would be smiling here. But here we are now, talking about how the game went upside down, how the VAR ruined everything. Also, Donnarumma, the goal came from his mistake. The other chances that Newcastle had in the first half was also from his mistakes. So also, I think as much as we are spending so much time micromanagement, what happened with the VAR, or what happened to how PSG got to come back in this game, and why they were not able to perform their objectives, which is scoring a goal. We could also say that their goalkeeper cost them. He should have done better with the chances that he had. He should have been the guy that kept this team in the game, but he didn't. He was too wasteful, or maybe he was bored because the game was played away from him, because his team, because it was at home, they were just playing that good. The game was always on the Newcastle side. You could understand that's what would have happened. Also, we have to put some respect on Nick Pope. because I felt like he did so well. He protected this team. He played with everything he could put. He really gave it his all in this game. That's the only thing I can say. He gave it his all. And that's what made this game so much excitement from a person who had no any feelings over the teams that were playing, like I am. But we enjoyed the game. It's only that the VAR messed up the game. Let's hear what the ESPN guys have to say before we go out of this video.
We expected a response then from PSG going 1-0 down, Frank, after dominating the opening 20 minutes. It didn't really come until like the final 20 minutes of the tie. And even in the end, in the final third, they were extraordinarily wasteful.
Yes, mainly because of Newcastle and the way that ADO planned everything. And I have to say that first half, I was very impressed by the way they were defending, but how they were capable of keeping the ball technically, tactically, how they were working all together. That was very impressive. Second half, yeah, they park, as we say, they park the bus, but they drop in a very smart way. And I have to say that Guimaraes, Joelinton and Miley did a hell of a job in the middle of the park, working for everybody, getting the spaces and making sure that it was impossible for Paris Saint-Germain to go inside, to go outside. And we all know that Paris Saint-Germain, they cannot cross the ball because there is nobody capable of making a header. There's one of the worst teams in Champions League about headers and everything. They're not good at that. So how they planned it and how the game went on is because mostly of Newcastle. But of course, Mbappé wasn't there most of the game. Dembélé was very clumsy. And some players who came on, Alonso, Asensio and some others, they didn't bring what they had to bring. They missed so many obvious chances as well. And on top of it, you don't have Marquinhos at the back. As Xhaka said, if Donnarumma keeps on making mistakes, it's not going to work. It's impossible.
Frank, what would they be saying in France about this performance from PSG? You mentioned that you've got Mbappé, you've got Muani, really good players who just didn't turn up. And we see this time and time again, I feel.
Well, people are frustrated. For some who likes Paris Saint-Germain, some others can be upset. Some others are not even surprised. That's how they play, and they've been playing. And you always feel that there is something missing. And Newcastle is the contrary picture of what you see. They play Newcastle, the Magpies. They play with enthusiasm, with self-belief, with courage. We don't have that in Paris Saint-Germain. You have the technique, you have maybe the stars, you have maybe the talent, but you don't have what you need, meaning guts on the field. You're not going to achieve anything. And it's what's going on with Paris Saint-Germain. And years after years, you feel that. The players are getting supposedly better and better every year, but you don't achieve anything. So it's kind of a faith. It's kind of what you have with Paris Saint-Germain. And we'll keep on having with players that you get.
You wouldn't put your money anywhere near them, would you?
Oh, to answer your question, they're a one-man band is what they are. You can't rely on anybody in that team, apart from Mbappé. It's down to him. If he's on his game, they win the game. If he's not, they don't win the game. I mean, it really is that simple. They're a one-man band. Who do we ever talk about in PSG? It's only ever him. Because what do you say about the rest of them? The only thing you can say about the rest is you can't trust them and you can't rely on them.
He's a good player, you know. We saw him in the Bundesliga. We know what he can offer. Yet these players seem to go to PSG and just get lost.
So is the problem that everything's catered to one guy?
You tell me, is that...
Well, it can only be that. You know, we're sitting here talking about Newcastle and we're talking about team. Mm-hmm. We're not pulling individual names out. We're talking about team. They defended well as a team. Everybody did their part. Everybody did this, blah, blah. We don't say that ever about PSG. It's always Mbappé. And so that's probably your problem. Everything's catered to the one guy, and if that one guy isn't quite at it or doesn't quite fancy it or for whatever reason, then they don't succeed.
Which is what more or less Luis Enrique over the past couple of months has, I'm going to say, hinted at, but probably stronger than that.
Yeah.
And even in the game, the domestic game, when Mbappé scored the hat-trick, and Enrique said, I'm not happy with him. And to back up sort of what Stevie's saying, I think if in an ideal world, if he was to be given a framework for 2 or 3 years guaranteed, and he could shake Mbappé off to Real Madrid, which is probably going to happen, but it's going to maybe take a little bit of time, and then rebuild the team as a team, I think that would be his preferred option. But again, we're looking at time here. Who's going to get that time at a club that is still searching, that spends money? But they've tried all this before with it was Neymar and Messi. It was all three of them. He's the one real big superstar. Yes, they have Zaire Emery to come back in, the youngster, brilliant young talent, but Koulibaly and Dembele, who's as flaky as hell, we know that, and we saw it again tonight. But he wants more of a team. Now, the big question is, for every manager there, are they going to get the time to do that? And the answer is probably no.
Dangerous things that you can ever in a team, that you only rely on one person. And if one person is a goal scorer, not an assist merchant, then you are in trouble. Because you have to understand something. There was a time in Barcelona that they were only relying on Lionel Messi. And what made Messi one of the best players was that as he was the relied player, he was helping the other players to score goals. He was helping the other players to function. But here's the danger in that. If you rely morely on one man, the only sloppy way you go, no matter how good the player is down. Because no player can ever carry a team alone. Trust me on that. You need a team. At least have a team that will work itself to create goals for Mbappé. That is a different one. It means there is a team behind which can stand anything that comes and do something. But you could not see that with PSG. As much as they were dominating the game, they could not do anything. Joelinton and this young kid that is playing, they did so well for Newcastle because they did not allow PSG to get a chance to go through in the middle. So it forced the PSG to try to play their games from the wings. And the danger of PSG playing in the wings, whether they cross the ball within, there is just no players who can head the balls into the back of the net. They can't do that. And how it doesn't make sense to me. How can a team with so many people who can put the ball inside the box, like for example Dembele, we know he can do that, cannot find them a focal point, a number 9 who finish the chances? In my head, it doesn't make sense. In football analysis factor, it doesn't even make sense. But that's where we find ourselves with this team. That's where we find ourselves with this club. They just cannot do it. And that's where Newcastle got them. Newcastle were a skeleton team of themselves. They were not even the biggest team of Newcastle. We saw what the best team of Newcastle can do to PSG. They beat them at their own home ground. But because they had so much injuries, they had to rely holding on the midfield and the defense. And they did their job. They did their job because PSG failed to even try to create anything that was meaningful. As much as they had shot 31 shots, and sometimes they were unlucky because the likes of Kylian Mbappé were trying, but most of the time they were so wasteful. So it's very, very painful that a team that is hoping to achieve so much is failing to even have something. So when Stevie Nico is saying that it's a one-man band, it is true. PSG cannot do anything without Kylian Mbappé. Their team, their whole entire group, the whole it's set up, the way they play, it's all because of Kylian Mbappé, and that has to change. Maybe they have to let him go. Maybe if he goes and they know that they no longer have that star in the team, they can create something that maybe is tangible for the team. Because at this moment, what we are seeing, it is a recipe for disaster. That's all I can say. It is a recipe for disaster because it is producing nothing for them. It is making them suffocate. Now they have to rely on officiating, making crazy mistakes and helping them draw against a Newcastle, a team that in the Premier League, I think they're number 6, if I'm not mistaken. You see, it is a problem. It is a problem to talk about these things as we stand, but that's all we can do because PSG are just not it. Some players are coming from the different leagues who are being signed by PSG. So good, but when they get to PSG, it disappears. Players like Ousmane Dembele, they know they can be good, but they need a team, a structure. And that's what PSG hasn't have in a while. They don't have a structure. They don't have a team that they can hold on to. The greatest teams that have done it, Real Madrid of the past 5 years, we can never say that they were really good in terms of like individual stars, but they were just a team that worked together. And even up to now, you can still see the identity of a team that is working together. We don't see that with PSG. Talk about even Man City. As much as we now have the Haalands, but before that, they were just a team that was there. Create a team, not individuals. That's the problem. If they keep making individuals, it's a recipe for disaster. Anyway, let's see what happens as we move on. But yeah, this was the analysis of PSG versus United. Please check out. I'm gonna be putting this. I think it's gonna be on the next video. I'll be putting a link on our Spotify channel where we are doing the analysis of the games and whatever that is happening. Expect 2 episodes that are dropping there today. It's gonna be exciting. We're trying by means to build something exciting for the Connect. So do me a favor, click the like button, subscribe to the Connect, and we are out. Peace. Subscribe to the Connect.